Good morning, everybody, from a very misty Djuma private game reserve this morning. My name's Stefan. I'm going to be hosting your safari for the morning. It's myself and Scott in the vehicle today, and Nikki in final control. At 4:20 this morning, the camp was abuzz with hyena calls, spotted hyena calls, and so we decided to come this morning and have a look at the hyena den to see what has happened after the wild dog crashed into here yesterday morning. I know there was a few of you that were concerned over the well-being of the hyena, and I must say I'm glad to say that all seems in order. The cubs are in good condition. They're running around, playing quite boisterously, and the females look good as well. We can only see one, the mother of the two young cubs at the moment. She is busy feeding her babies at the moment, and they seem to be hungrily guzzling down their breakfast. Now, for those viewers new to WildEarth, we're in Djuma Private Game Reserve at the moment, which is situated inside the Sabi Sands Game Reserve, adjacent to the massive Kruger National Park in South Africa. Being part of a larger reserve has its pros and its cons, but one of the cons is that, or one of the pros, I should say at least, is that we've got a beautiful property to drive around on and access. As many of you would have noticed, before we can drive off-road, we can access hyena dens like this and sit here undisturbed, watching Mother Nature unfold her story in the mornings. Although hyena can move around in the day, most of them move around at night time. So you probably find that this mother was foraging last night. They can walk incredibly far. I've heard reports of hyena walking anywhere from a couple of kilometers to up to 60 kilometers in the case of some brown hyenas in the desert areas of Africa. They will hunt for themselves, contrary to popular belief, but it's much easier to steal kills from other predators. And hyena and leopard in particular have an uneasy relationship with one another, with hyena stealing leopard kills as often as they can. So this mother is a really big mother. Hyena females are generally larger than what males are, and this is because they are very, very good mothers. And knowing that she's a good mother means that she needs to keep herself well nourished, and they're quite aggressive around carcasses and around food, with the females of spotted hyenas usually dominating kills and dominating food. It makes them a bit bigger, and usually for their entire lives will keep them bigger than the males. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the car around that side of the den. When we arrived, they were playing on this side of the den, but I see they've now settled down a little bit, and let's go and change the angle. Hyena dens can be quite tolerant of us. Basically, if you just watch how the animals behave around you while you're busy maneuvering, you'll be able to judge whether or not you're having an effect on these animals. You can see the one cub directly in front of us on the left. There we go. You can see Mom didn't even lift her head at us. So this mom would have moved her cubs into this den. It's probably a communal den shared by all the hyena of her particular clan. There are usually successive generations of cubs or cubs in a den like this, and in this particular case there's one cub from one mother and two cubs from another mother. They all share parenting, and they do this because these cubs will be at this den site for 12 to 15 months before they move off. It's a long time, and a little bit too much just for one mother to handle. It's not uncommon for mothers to feed and even suckle cubs from different mothers. Lions do exactly the same. Social animals tend to help one another. As the cubs get older and they need more filling meals, you'll find other members of the clan actually bringing meals to them. I've seen whole animals basically be brought to den sites like this, hindquarters of wildebeest and pieces of impala, and quite often by the time these cubs leave this den site, the whole area around it will be littered with bones and toys basically for the youngsters. Go right ahead. Good morning, Kathy from Tennessee. Quite a nice question there. It was, why do we never see adult male hyena around this den? Adult male hyena have no part in bringing up the cubs of the clan. So there's no reason for them to come around the den. They'll be outcompeted for food. They're not welcome around the cubs. It doesn't mean that they won't visit it from time to time. I have seen adult male hyena hanging around the outskirts of a den site, but generally because they have no real hand in bringing up the cubs, and the females are so much larger and generally so much more aggressive than what they are, they tend to keep clear and keep in the periphery. They are an active part of the clan though, and they will take part in defending the clan and marking the clan's boundaries. Here we've got this little guy walking up to us. Hyena are incredibly inquisitive. And you can see already this little guy or girl, they're quite difficult to sex actually, has that big thick neck, well developed head and the four quarters, the shoulders of an endurance athlete, and basically just as a powerhouse to dismember the skeletons and the carcasses of large animals that have died in the bush. Primarily that's their ecological role, is to get rid of the sick, lame, lazy and the dead. An accumulation of dead animals in the bush will actually poison an environment, and the hyena and vulture play an incredibly important role in the ecology of the bush out here, that they actually maintain disease, or maintain effective control of a disease, I should say. By dismembering carcasses and carrying them off long distances, they're spreading the effect a carcass can have in any one area. They break open carcasses with those incredibly strong jaws and neck muscles, which allows other smaller scavengers to come in and finish off what they don't. But all that takes exercise, and you'll notice that this little cub, their inquisitive nature is quite often leads them to chewing and wrestling things. I have no doubt that this little guy is going to be picking up a stick or a branch soon. As is so often the case with my predictions, they'll go and do something completely different. You'll notice the tail wagging on the hyena cub. Hyenas have a very elaborate greeting ritual, and this little cub won't approach that female with her baby suckling on her without greeting her first. All hyenas greet each other very elaborately when they meet one another, and it's a display and a swapping of smells. Something's piqued the interest of the female. She's got her head up. We can't see anything, I can't hear anything, but you see the little cub full of confidence. Oh, there we go, there's another hyena that's just arrived on the scene. This one's smaller than the female that's busy suckling, and may very well be one of the hyena that was involved in the fight with the wild dogs yesterday. For those just joining us for the first time, this den site was intruded upon by a pack of wild dog yesterday, and there was a bit of a scrap as the females tried to get the wild dogs away from the cubs, and the cubs tried to get into the den, I'm sure. Have a look at that. So right up to the vehicle, no fear whatsoever, just as it should be. So you'll notice a very exaggerated sloping back. That sloping back stance that hyena have got is characteristic to them, but some antelope have it as well. Hartebeest, that's probably the mother of the... You can have a look at the greeting that's going to be going on here. A lot of smelling around. You'll notice that there's a bit of excitement all of a sudden at the appearance of this other hyena. Oh, these little guys are so cute. Hyena are my favorite animal, that and honey badger, and it's because they're so animated. Good morning. So I see this hyena doesn't seem to have any wounds on her. Okay, have a careful look what's happening there. It's a very, very interesting behavior that you've just seen that hyena do there. That's called pasting. I have an anal gland that secretes a paste. It's an olfactory signal to other hyena that says, this is who I am. Watch, have a look at this little one. They react. And she's also, it looks like she's also going to go over and try and paste. There we go. Hyena never fail to inspect a pasting. You'll notice the gland comes out, the grass stalk goes over the gland, and there's quite sticky, very smelly paste. There they're just rubbing their clan scent all over themselves. And it's one of the things that bond hyena so closely together. Look at that. That's not behavior that you see often at all. We watched an adult hyena paste, and now we've just watched the cubs paste. Yeah, I've certainly never seen that in all my time spent at the den site, Steph. So, like you said, that's awesome. Yeah. Brown hyena, these are spotted hyena. Brown hyena, which occur over a wider part of Africa, they have the most elaborate olfactory scent marking system that exists as far as I'm aware. And they actually have two ways of pasting. They paste a whitish extradite, and they also paste a black extradite, one of which is just to affirm that they've been down that particular riverbed or that particular area and there's nothing there. The other one is to say, I'm from this clan, I'm male and female, I'm this old, and who knows what other information comes out of that. Spotted hyena, you hardly ever see their pastings. It's usually just a slimy excretion on the grass stalks. You definitely smell it if you walk through it and your legs have to brush up against it. So what I'm going to reposition again. We have the female that just arrived. She's lying with her two cubs on the other side, and I think I'm going to go there. Give us a view of what's going on. We just have another vehicle joining us in the sighting. Go with your message. Yeah, no problem. Go with your message. We have a question from Jane asking if a lower ranked female can take over the clan. The answer to that question is an absolute yes, but it would be at the expense of the matriarch. Not necessarily killing the matriarch, but definitely ousting her or demoting her considerably. The matriarchal position is a hereditary position, so it will be passed from the matriarch to a daughter, and these times are quite often hotly contested, because if the matriarch gets injured or killed by a lion or in a fight with something, then there is a bit of a power struggle. So the answer is an absolute yes. Mobile with a 2 PC on Philemon's dip. There are 2 mobiles in this particular lock at the moment. And PC Kaya off of Philemon's dip. So den sites can get quite boisterous with the cubs, as you can imagine. Having yourself once you've been feeding for a whole night, or walking a whole bunch of kilometers, and then having to come home to feed the kids and then try and catch a nap before foraging again, it can get quite frustrating for the females. Quite often the females will come, check on the cubs, they will feed them, have a bit of playtime, reassure the cubs, and then they'll actually move off. And the cubs will move into the den. Now, hyena don't dig their own holes. in termitaria, or in the Sabi Sands at least, their den sites are almost in termite mounds, almost always in termite mounds. They excavate holes that are already there. Now, hyena siblings, it's for all their boisterous play and their activity and their curiosity, it's quite savage being a hyena. When twin females are born to the matriarch, quite often the bigger of the two cubs will actually kill the younger one. This practice is known as siblicide or canism. And it happens in nature, it happens in eagles as well, some other birds, but it happens to ensure that there's no dominance struggle as the cubs get older, and that there's a very clear lineage from matriarch to successor. And this is all for clan strength. You want to have a united, strong clan, and although it might seem a bit savage to us, hyena societies are some of the strongest bonded societies in the animal kingdom, and together they're very successful. You find hyenas in almost all of the national parks. You find hyenas outside of the national parks, which is rare for large carnivores. For instance, lion in Africa we have another hyena arriving. Lion in Africa are almost exclusively only found in national parks. You'll notice what happened there. Okay, have a look, and you'll see the one hyena went straight into a submissive posture. So they're greeting one another there. You'll notice the hyena on the ground, she's very submissive. Now the hyena that was nursing the cub was obviously a lower ranking female. And this is either the matriarch or she's the mother of the cubs. Quite difficult to tell with hyena. They're actually quite difficult to tell apart from one another unless there's a notable scar or a notable feature on their bodies. That tail curled up and that very alert posture there, it's just showing some excitement. Now there's no way that a hyena from another clan would have been nursing cubs at this clan. So the other hyena is definitely from this clan. She's just obviously a lower ranking female than the one that came in here now. Now I do see some bite marks on that hyena. But she looks to be keeping them quite clean. She doesn't look to be injured. She looks a bit stiff, I will be honest. But after a pack of wild dogs barreling in here and her having a fight, obviously her having a fight to give her cubs the best chance of survival and to protect her clan to stay as matriarch, she took a bit of a beating from the dogs, but it doesn't look like she's bad at all. She's just a bit stiff. Go right ahead. Copy that. Notice the cubs are coming back out of the den now. So it's good practice for cubs as soon as they hear a disturbance or as soon as they hear another hyena is coming or another predator to run into the den. The cubs themselves will actually have excavated inside the den their own escape holes, and they quite often make these elaborate tunnels inside the dens that not even the adult hyena can get into. So yeah, they're greeting one another again. Just that ritualized greeting. welcome. Linda in Washington, welcome Linda, has asked what the gestation period of a hyena are. And it's relatively short, even though the cubs come out all formed. They come out basically covered in hair. They do come out blind. The gestation period is 90 to 100 days, somewhere there. Almost all the large predators have gestation periods of roughly 3 months. And that's because when you're running around with a belly full of babies, you run the risk of exhausting yourself, in which case you'll do harm to your babies. You also run the risk of injury when you're tackling large prey or getting into fights over territory or getting into fights with other large carnivores. And so most predators have den sites. They have their litters, and their babies are kept safe in a den and moved from time to time until, in this particular case, the babies can come to a communal den where there's lots of cubs all looking after one another and almost always an adult in attendance somewhere in the area. I hope that answers your question. You'll notice there's a meeting going on. In the Sabi Sand, you never really find large groups of hyenas together, even though the clan size may vary to a couple of dozen individuals. You hardly ever find all of them together all the time. I have seen 4, 5 and 6 hyena at a time when they are on the move hunting, but generally you only see them in groups of 2 or 3. You might find that these hyena have been separated for the night and are coming back now just to say hello and reaffirm their bonds with one another and say hello to the cubs and have a bit of family time. Go right ahead. Good morning, Jilly from Milwaukee. And your question about do hyena males band together for hunting? Yes, they do, although it's not a boys' club, as I suppose the question was implying. They don't band together because the females are bigger and nastier and looking after the babies, and it dominates them eating kills with nothing better than it to do. Hyenas will band together when they need to hunt large prey. So in areas where there's an abundance of large prey, they will band together. They'll also band together to protect boundaries from other hyena, and they'll also band together when they're mobbing large predators like lion or leopard off of kills. It by no means that it always has to be males or always has to be females. Quite often there's mixed. Hyena are incredibly difficult to sex though. After 16 years in the bush, I still battle to sex hyena, and it takes a very long and close inspection of them and their behavioral traits to determine sex. I'm not even going to try here, although this one we're looking at right now, standing at the den entrance, she was the one that came running in here and forced submission from all the other females here. If you have a look across the base of her spine, you'll notice some teeth marks there. For those of you with some sharp eyes, they're the white puncture wounds that you can see. I would think that she's almost definitely the female that was harassed by the wild dog yesterday. Now, they're really tough animals. She's not stiff, she's not limping. When she ran off, she was a little bit stiff in the hips, but nothing to be concerned about. You can see that she's in perfect health. So the den is well defended. The hierarchy seems to be intact. Unlike lion and leopard, whose teeth are there for grabbing and cutting or slicing, hyena's teeth are designed for grabbing and crushing. So you can note that they have really round heads. Their skulls are actually triangular, but because of the overdeveloped muscles on their head and in their neck, that gives them quite a barreled look in their faces and in their necks. And it's literally just muscle attachment. You'll have a look. This hyena we're looking at right now, you'll notice, if she bends down again, a bulge of muscle just below and behind her ear. Really well developed forelegs. Having smaller hindquarters and smaller feet at the back, and that sloped appearance or that sloped spine gives them amazing leverage. And I've seen them dismember elephant carcasses, giraffe, buffalo carcasses that would take 10 people to do. So that hyena is busy scratching her ear there. Makes you think, or might make you think, that hyenas are very similar to dogs. But in actual fact, from a taxonomic point of view, hyenas are actually closer to cats, with their closest relatives being bears in the northern hemisphere, actually. Getting a bit older now, and their curiosity and their built-in need to exercise and build on the muscles that they have means that they will, almost anything that is within range of their reach and can be moved will be chewed up and carried around. And that does tend to leave den sites in a bit of a messy affair. Hyenas will move den sites. They won't just have one den site. They'll move den sites often. And there's a bit of speculation as to why they move den sites. You know, a build-up of detritus, bones and feces around the den site means that this becomes a very clear indication to other predators that there's hyenas here, and it might pose a danger to the cubs. There's also speculation that fleas and other parasites build up inside the den and they become intolerable. And so the mothers will move the cubs from den site to den site. I think there's a combination of factors. I think there's a good chance that it's a combination of both factors. You're welcome. Good morning, Caroline from Missouri. Caroline's posed an interesting question. It doesn't look like there's any meat around the den, and it doesn't look like any of the females brought any meat with them. So at what age do the cubs start eating meat, and at what age will they start accompanying their parents and the rest of their family and clan out on hunts? Good mothers. They will end up suckling these cubs for anywhere from 1 year to 2 years, depending on the stature of the female or her rank. But these little cubs will start eating meat anywhere from 15 to 18 weeks. They will start foraging on their own from about 15 months, and will become active clan members anywhere from 15 months to 24 months. In other words, they will start adding value to the clan. See that little guy over there just busy pruning that bush. Coming back to the hunting question, what that little cub there is doing doesn't look like anything but play. But in actual fact, everything is just practice for one day when they're going to be exhibiting very similar behavior, pulling down large prey. I've seen clans of hyena kill buffalo on their own, which was terrifying to witness, to be honest, because you don't expect hyena to be able to kill something that big. I've seen single hyena pull down kudu, which easily outweighs them 3 to 1, in some cases even 4 to 1. To his or her future survival. It's learning how to use that leverage in their body, learning how to tuck their back legs between their front legs so that they can leverage, getting those massive neck muscles into play and that long neck into play. Their prey and dismember carcasses. And all returns to calm at the hyena den. I think what we're going to do is let's try and reposition to the other side of the den. If the hyena look like they are settling down for their morning, then we'll make our way out of the den site and give them some time just to relax. Would these hyenas be in danger if the wild dogs arrived with three adult hyena around the den? It's always difficult to answer a question like that because you don't know how many hyena would stay and how many wild dogs may arrive. I have a theory that I've been working on over the years that works around weight. Now, hyena, usually the interactions you see between large predators are between hyena and lion or hyena and leopard. But in this case, it would work well enough for hyena and wild dog. I see it as being a weight issue. So, the three adult hyena that we have here, if we say they average around 40 kilograms each, That'll give us a total weight of our hyena here of about 100 or roughly 120 kilograms. The average weight of a wild dog is about 15 kilograms. So you'd need a substantial amount of wild dog to run in here to give these hyenas any sort of run for their money. So yesterday, I'm not too sure how many wild dog were in the pack that ran through here, but what you could do is just extrapolate it out to 120 kilograms of hyena versus 120 kilograms of wild dog. In that case, I'd say that the wild dog would definitely pose a threat to the hyena, just because there'd be more of them and they can attack from more sides. But if it was just 3 or 4 wild dog, I see that the wild dog will be run off relatively easily. Wild dog are one of the rarest of the predators that we have in this part of the world, with only about 150 dogs in total in the entire Kruger National Park. Whereas hyena in the park are roughly 2,500. So I would say that hyena are definitely the more dominant of the predators in the Kruger National Park at the moment. I would say that at the moment only lion would outcompete them at all. But it would definitely come down to a situational thing. At the time, how many hyena are versus how many wild dog. And according to my theory at least, the pack weights of both. So these hyena have settled down now. There hasn't been much activity here for the last 10 or 15 minutes. It's such a beautiful morning. The mist is starting to burn off of the valleys at the moment. The sun has started to rise. And I think what we're going to do at the moment is move off and go and have a look for something else exciting to watch. It's been fun with these hyena. I'm very, very glad that the female that was attacked yesterday seems to be in perfect health. I'm very happy to see that the cubs, there's nothing wrong with the cubs and they're just as boisterous as they were before. And I'm also happy to see that there's more than one hyena here at the moment, which shows that there's a good family bond still happening. And they all look healthy. So we wish you a good morning. Enjoy resting up.